One of the advantages is that I've learned over the years how to cheat at PechaKucha. So I'm going to speak for about 10 minutes before I start the machine going. No, but I do want to do this. How many people know the words to Alice's Restaurant? You can get everything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Okay, that's the only singing we're going to do. But I needed to get it out of my system. Watching the 5 presentations in front of me, it's been so inspiring. It is really cool, all the things that are going on in our wonderful city. And apparently I'm doing the depressing one. Let's run with it. What does a citizen of Bozeman, concerned about climate change and the environment, do to make the earth more sustainable? How do we balance affordability, the character of our neighborhoods and downtown, with our responsibility to the environment? And what challenge does a citizen that happens to be the mayor face to fulfill that responsibility in the face of evident rapid growth? So these informal charts basically say that we're screwed. The far right shows a rough estimate as to where Bozeman is at putting CO2 into the atmosphere. Imagine what if the rest of the world acted the way we do. So what are our challenges? Let's start with what I'm going to define as corporate greed. What do big economic interests do when their profits are threatened? This is what happened with cigarettes. Classic fake science to tell nicotine addicts what they want to hear, that it's okay to smoke. And so you wonder, modern times require modern tactics. Here's a variation on the do anything you want to preserve our profits theme. Take some profits, pay for fake science, feed it to policymakers, let them tell people what they want to hear. No change needed, status quo. What about lowering population growth? It's my granddaughter. We're not going to, it's up there because this is a tough conversation and we need to have it worldwide. It's not something we can have just in Bozeman, but it is something that we're going to have to consider. Will the free market take care of the problem? It turns out that the profit drive is too great, and our laws let corporations be people for some purposes, but also allows corporations to be inhuman and destroy huge swaths of the environment, pay out the profits to individual real people, and then leave us to clean up the mess. Think oil and gas pipelines that are cheaper to allow to fail than to inspect often enough. Think how often we hear that these pipelines can be built safely. Is it really true, or are the facts otherwise? Then you think about the challenge of actually regulating. People aren't comfortable with forced change. In the early 1990s, the idea of a sign code to make our city more attractive came up with a lot of opposition. But compare, that's North 7th. The Bears sign in the right, way in the back, that's where U-Haul is today. And all those signs have been wiped out, and only through regulation could that have happened. What do we do now to try and convince people to limit their carbon imprint? By and large, it's an economic approach. You can save money, LED lights last longer, you can shift things around and save more money. It works. I don't mind this approach at all. It does convince some people. But how are we going to handle the pressure of growth and still reduce carbon imprint? Well, you might get public utilities more involved in clean energy, like this community solar array that's on city land. Northwest Energy is doing its part, but more is required, either by partnering with or changing the public utilities, whether by cajoling or forcing or both. And we can clean up old railroad sites and turn them into something nice. The Milwaukee Road went bankrupt and did not pay for the cleanup. Taxpayers did. And we put in solar panels on the roof when they weren't so cheap. And this helped with others to bring that technology better and cheaper for all. We should see the value of infill without sprawling the city into good farmland. We have about 1,800 acres of residential zoned and undeveloped land already in the city. You can see some of it in this slide. That land will eventually get developed as residential and drive our population above 60,000. We should realize that planning with the county matters also. Here's what the triangle between Belgrade, Bozeman, and Four Corners could look like if we planned for small village nodes. This is what it would look like if we continued on our present course of cooperation with the county. We could consider building up a little, maybe like this. Just kidding, just kidding. But the question is, can we build up with style and good design, or is tall always bad? Could this building be 6 stories and still work and look as nice as it does? Are we going to have to make other compromises to meet the environmental challenges of tomorrow? Decidedly, yes. We're going to have to find ways to balance our needs and values to make this community that which we aspire for it. We have the city value of affordability, for instance. Currently, we have a good mix of economic strata, but it's disappearing because we were affordable 30 years ago, and those buyers are now going to sell their all too expensive homes. So we better find the political will to do more. Notice on this affordable housing apartment, there's solar panels on top of it to keep the operating costs lower. Climate change is more than a money issue. Even if we calculated the true monetary loss due to environmental degradation, we're not really describing the issue. The risk of human loss through disaster, the risk of losing humanity as we know it, has to be a motivating force as well. We really need to face the fact that this is not Alice's restaurant. That is, but we aren't. The risk of human loss, here we go. Do we dare say that we get to leave a bigger carbon imprint than others? Wouldn't it be fair if we started reducing our carbon imprint faster? Let's factor in the question of survivability of life as we know it. The reality is the survivability of life is priceless. And we're going to need to compromise our expectations and accept the losses that come with more urban density, because the alternative is something like that. Do I know that that kind of devastation will happen and that we won't be able to adapt? No, I don't, for sure. But the reason we shouldn't take the risk of future environmental disasters is that it is the right thing to create and use renewable energy. And you should always do the right thing. What's the driving narrative that makes doing the right thing so hard for so many? Is it a few oil men trying to make some money at our expense? It can't be that we believe that clean coal is just around the bend. And certainly it's not because the drive for profit should be at our expense as opposed to theirs.